Hey, friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super stoked to have someone that is near and dear to my heart with me today. I've known this young lady since she was around 4 years old, and it is my pleasure to continue to cheer her on. Now, before I introduce her, I do want to share a little story of how we met. Now, I may chuckle during this story, but when I was 14 or 15, I met her older brother. We then became sweethearts for a couple of years, and during those years, I got to meet and fall in love with his family, and I still consider them friends to this day. So we won't wait any longer. Joining me today is Jasmine Morton. Jasmine grew up in Webster County, graduated from Webster County High School before heading off to college, and then she is now a graduate from the West Virginia University College of Law. Jasmine and her husband now reside in Braxton County with their daughter, Reese. Now, this part is exciting. Jasmine is also a candidate in the upcoming election for the Division I Circuit Judge position. Jasmine's parents continue to live in Webster County and are active members of the community here. Hey, Jazz.
Thanks, Anna.
Hey, so just for the listeners, we are doing both YouTube recording and the podcast recording. Our friends on YouTube, you will see me. I have some notes, okay? I have a few notes. So, listen. No, she's going. But I'm so excited you're here.
Yeah, I'm excited. A little nervous.
Yeah.
A little nervous. Never done a podcast. Never done anything like this. So.
We're just all friends here.
That's
We're
right.
glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, listen, is there anything you want to add to or correct concerning the introduction?
I think you got everything right in the introduction. The only thing I would add is after high school here in Webster County, I went to West Virginia Wesleyan, and I got a dual degree in political science and criminal justice.
Nice.
And I did that in 3 years, and then I headed off to Morgantown to law school.
Impressive. Very nice.
I think that would be the only thing that you didn't have in there.
Yeah. So did you always know you wanted to be an attorney? Or when did that thought even start to come to mind?
I've probably always known I was going to be an attorney. Now, when I was younger, I thought maybe I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
But don't really like blood, so I figured that's probably not not the right course for me to take.
Yeah.
And of course, I grew up with my mom, and she's told stories from the time I can remember that she carried me to, court in a file box, and it was just kind of destiny that I would end up where I'm at. So.
I love it. That is so much fun. You remind me so much of your mom. Do you hear that often?
About everywhere I go. And as you said, I'm running for circuit judge, so I've been spending some time in Gilmer County, and my mom is originally from Gilmer County. So I had actually stopped in at Wendell's service station there in St. Fork, and I had walked out to my car to get something, and I came back in, and there were 3 guys that were sitting there actually watching the state basketball tournament, and we had talked a little bit about that before I went out to my car. And when I came back in, I hadn't introduced myself, and they were like, "We know who you are. You're Joyce Helmick's daughter, aren't you?"
Oh my goodness, that
and
is
I was
such
like,
fun.
Yeah, I am. And they were like, "You look just like her. We were, we went to high school with her." So yes, I get told that a lot.
Yeah, well, that's a compliment. That's okay. That's great. Good deal. All right, let's just jump right into it. We're going to get to know Jasmine. Now, you may hear me call her Jazz. I don't know. For years, that's just how I've referred to her. When she was little, we used to call her Snazzy Jazzy. We'll try not to do that today. I feel like she has earned a professional status, so we'll try to drop the Snazzy, but keep the Jazzy. So I just want to get to know you a little better, let the listeners hear your story. Jasmine did grow up in Webster County, so she went to the same schools that we have all went to, probably Webster Springs.
Webster Springs Elementary. And of course, there's no middle school, or there wasn't.
That's
there
right.
Is a middle school now.
Yeah, there was
we
not.
We did not have a middle school when I was in school. It was K through 8th at Webster Springs Elementary, and then 9 through 12 at Webster County High School. So.
Yeah, that is correct. That's right. How old are you, Jazz?
37.
37.
It took me a second. I have a birthday coming up.
That's all right. So she's 10 years younger than myself. So yeah, that's right. There wasn't a middle school. So here's the thing. Sometimes a lot of people feel limited. Like, I'll use my son, for example. My youngest son always had the dream of playing college basketball, going to college on a scholarship. When he was younger, I can remember people saying to him, Oh, that just doesn't happen to boys from Webster. Oh, that just doesn't happen. Keep working, little buddy, but oh, that just doesn't happen. And we tried so hard to reinforce to him it can happen. It does happen. You know, your geographical location does not limit you and what you can do. So, did you ever have those thoughts that I can't do it because I'm from a small town? I graduated from a small high school.
Yes, I mean, I did have those thoughts, and I've seen that, and I go around to the schools. I won't say a lot, but I'm in and out of the schools in all of these counties. I went and read to several different elementary schools for Dr. Seuss Week.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of see the children be like, well, this is great that you're doing this, but like, I'll not be that. And I'm like, look, I'm from Webster County. I mean, like, you can do it.
Yeah.
And my mom, has always instilled in me that, you put your mind to it, you could do it. Yeah. And she also, like I said, came from Gilmer County. And
she did, yes.
Brought herself up from very little.
Yeah.
And, she had a child when she was in high school and still managed to go to college, still managed to, go to law school. And she was the first in her family to ever graduate from high school, let alone go to college and then on to law school.
That's amazing.
So, just because you're from a small town doesn't limit you. In fact, now that I've been out and lived a little, we'll say, it can actually help you because, you develop personal relationships with everyone in your community. I mean, for example, I had followed on Facebook, Raiden Triplett was a candidate for a nationwide award.
Right.
And, Webster County was behind him
100%. 100%, yes.
And voting, constantly.
Yeah.
So, you develop personal relationships with your community and they can support you so much. So being from a rural area doesn't have to limit you.
Right.
And I know that people do say that, well, it just doesn't happen. You're not gonna get that coming from Webster County. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you can.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And she not only graduated from the high school, you went on to West Virginia Wesleyan, but it is competitive. It is not easy to get into the West Virginia University College of Law. So
it is not.
I mean, that's a big accomplishment in itself.
Well, and West Virginia only has one law school.
Right.
We're one of the only states in the nation that only has one law school. So, if you're going to get in, it has to be at WVU, and they only take a limited number of students.
Yeah.
When I graduated, I think that we started out with 132, and we graduated maybe 117
or
115.
Yeah.
Because they will weed you out.
Yeah.
I mean, there are the first year of law school is
yeah. I'm sure it's tough.
not a joke.
Right.
But I loved law school. I would
not
trade that experience for anything. And some people are like, oh, I just wanted to get through it. But I loved it.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So also I want to kind of zero in all the young ladies listening. Jasmine is a young lady. Don't let the fact that you're a female stop you from entering the workforce in this line of work or any other line of work that you want to do. Was that ever an obstacle? Do you come upon that obstacle now that you have graduated, that you're a female? Is it a male-dominated field? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the legal profession has predominantly been a male-dominated field, I would say. Now, in recent years, if you look nationwide, it's more of a 50-50 split, that you're seeing more females enter law school. Now, here in rural West Virginia, I can name on one hand the female attorneys that I work with.
Yeah. Huh.
And, I'm the first female candidate for circuit judge in our area.
Impressive, yes.
So Webster, Braxton, Clay, and Gilmer has never even had a candidate or an option to vote for a female or a woman for a circuit judge. So, and I am young, you asked me, and I think that could, be considered a hindrance, but the way I look at it is, I'm young, I have the energy to do this, it's a big circuit, it's 4 counties, it's a big area, you're going to need energy to even go to these counties and be ready to do the job. So, I think that's a positive thing for me, and I've actually had a few people comment on the fact, well, you don't look like a judge. Yeah. You don't look like any judge I've ever seen, in fact, were the words that was told, and I took time to sit and speak with the gentleman that had said that to me, and I just told him, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Like, why don't you ask me about what my credentials are before you just judge me based on how I look.
Right.
And so after that conversation, he told me he was going to vote for me and introduced me to a couple other gentlemen he was sitting with. So don't let that stop you. I mean, put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
The least that someone can do is say no.
Yeah.
That's the worst. That's the worst that's going to happen. They say no.
That is exactly right. And I want to encourage you, if you still have any hesitation about Jasmine's ability to be your judge, on her Facebook page, I think it's called Vote For. Tell me the exact title. I don't want to mess it up.
Oh gosh, I don't even
I know
know
me. The Vote for Jasmine.
I think it's Vote Jasmine Morton Circuit Judge.
I believe
That's what
so.
I think it is.
And if you go on it and scroll back to some of her earlier posts, she puts a lot of the awards, the recognitions, different things that she has obtained during her time in the field of law, and it's impressive. I mean, it is. You have some experience under your belt.
Well,
you grew up with it. Your mom was an assistant prosecutor, correct? Or was she the prosecutor at one time?
No, she was the assistant under my Papa Jack, and then she went to work for Monty Van Ostrin.
Right.
They developed Van Ostrin and Morton. They had their practice for several years. And then she actually went to work for the Milo and Pushkar Trust in Morgantown for a few years. And then she became the family court judge here in Webster and Pocahontas County, and that's what she's been doing for the last 8 years.
So this is not a new field for you.
It is not. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I was in court in a file box at one point in time.
I love it. That's fun. That is great. That is great. That's a good time. So we touched on your mom just a little bit, that she grew up, well, she's very open about it on Facebook. So I'm not sharing anything that she wouldn't want us to share. Her mother, that is now the family law court judge, family court judge. What Jasmine's realized is Maxetta has really struggled with her legal titles. I mean, it has been a struggle.
In all fairness, it did used to be like the family law master. So the titles have changed.
Right.
In all fairness.
And a small town, like, we don't really use it. It's Judge whatever, Judge Morton, Judge Joyce. This, or Joyce. Yeah, to me it's Joyce. I'm like, So, but anyways, we have touched on that just a little bit. She did grow up in Gilmer County, very rough. Her parents were not wealthy. No. She worked very hard, graduated high school. Her senior year, maybe, senior year, had a baby.
Yes, she had,
Chris.
The older brother you spoke of there.
The older brother. The former sweetheart.
The former sweetheart, yes. She had him at 17.
Yeah. And she pretty much was a single mom, correct? I mean,
for the most part.
For the most part,
and, she went to, like I said, she was the first in her family to graduate from high school.
See, that's
let
amazing.
alone, then go to college.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been in her office on more than one occasion when she's had clients be like, well, I just can't. And her answer is, that's not an answer.
Yes.
You can if you want to. And, and that's, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you can do anything that you want to because life is sunshine and rainbows. I know it's not.
Right.
But if you truly want something and you set your mind to it, it is achievable.
Yes.
I mean, coming from a small town, if you want to go to college, start looking for scholarships.
Exactly.
They're all over the place.
Right.
There's free money out there.
Yeah.
Like you would not believe.
Yes, exactly.
You want to become a lawyer? Call me.
Yeah.
You can come to court with me. You can come to my office. We'll talk about what it means. We'll talk about, it's not a walk in the park. It's not easy.
Right.
But if it's something you truly want to do, come to me. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to be a doctor. Go to the hospital.
Go shadow. Go talk to.
Certain that someone up there would love to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I agree. That's good advice. I like that so much. Now, when you graduated from law school, tell me about your career up till this point, currently, what you did.
So, like you said, I went to WVU, and for me, Morgantown was like the city life, and I loved it. And I was never moving back.
I wondered about that. I wonder what brought her back. I don't know.
And I was never moving back to, rural West Virginia. And actually, Judge Alsop was at the law school, and we were talking, and he offered me a job as his law clerk.
Oh, wow.
So right out of law school, I did exactly what I said I would, and I came back to Webster County. And I'm so glad I did, because, I've actually built my career here, and I love the people here.
Yeah.
Actually, I was at lunch today with the new assistant prosecutor here in Webster County, and he's originally, I think he said from California, but moved here maybe from Michigan with his family. And he was just saying how kind and nice and welcoming everybody in Webster County's been, and you know, I couldn't echo that more. But anyway, so I moved back. I was Judge Alsop's law clerk for 3 years, so I traveled everywhere with him to all the counties. And being a law clerk, you learn a lot about what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you also learn a lot about what not to do.
Yes.
Like what you don't want to do to upset the court.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, I always encourage anytime that I talk to a law student and they ask me about a clerkship, I always encourage a year at least, because, you know, if you can get that, you just, you know, you learn a ton in law school, don't get me wrong, but the practicalities of what the practice of law really is and being out there, it's good to be able to watch it a little bit before you're, you know, put in the hot seat, so to say.
So you also got to kind of see behind the scenes what the judge does, how decisions are made. I mean, you really got a good look at what you're running to do now.
I did, yes. Yeah. And so after that, I became the assistant prosecutor in Braxton County, and I worked there for 3 years, and I loved it. Now, if you would have told me in law school I was going to be a prosecutor, I would have laughed, because I was raised by a defense attorney.
Yeah.
So, you know, for the most part, my mom's whole career, she represented, you know, defendants and abuse and neglect parents. So then I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a prosecutor. She's like, oh, didn't see that one coming. So after that, I spent 3 years there, and then I tried something a little different, went to the civil side of the law and did some.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I worked for Bailey Jacobs and Carter. They're a law firm out of Charleston.
Oh, okay.
But they had an office in Summersville, and I worked with Linda Garrett over there. And we did a lot of like personal injury, black lung, workers' comp type things. And then I also got to serve as a guardian ad litem in abuse and neglect cases, so which I really liked. And I liked that part of the law because you'd work directly with the people, and you get to see what your work is doing to change their lives. Yeah, if that's
good. It does make sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was there for about a year, and then the prosecutor's job in Braxton County, the head prosecutor's job in Braxton County opened back up. I applied for that and was ultimately selected. And I served as the Braxton County prosecutor for 6.5 years.
Oh, was it that long?
Yes. I was elected for an unexpired term in 2018, and then I was reelected again in 2020, and loved it. I love being a prosecutor. You know, and so many times, anytime I was preparing for a trial, and I would, you know, of course, I would often call and talk to my mom, and I would say, oh, what if I don't win this case, or what if I don't, you know, do this right? And she would always say, now, Jack Morton, Jasmine would say to you, the state of West Virginia never wins or loses a case. Justice always prevails. Oh, okay. So anytime I prepared for a trial, you know, that was always kind of in the back of my mind. Like, you know, do your best, put on your evidence, but, you know, ultimately what's meant to happen, and justice will prevail. So I've always liked that little tidbit of advice. So I was prosecutor there, and ultimately in March of 2013, last March, I made the decision to resign as prosecutor, which was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made.
I bet it was.
And you can ask the commissioners, I cried the whole time I tendered my resignation. A little embarrassed about that now.
No.
At the time, so because I had intended to run for circuit judge, and I wanted to get my campaign started. And I had a job offer in Nicholas County as an assistant there, and I knew I needed time to work on this campaign, and I also knew that, you know, if I were to run against an incumbent judge, that I would potentially create conflicts. So, you know, I didn't want to further my political agenda on the taxpayers' dime, and I ultimately made the choice to resign, and I went to work in Nicholas County as an assistant prosecutor. And I, again, like I said, wrestled with that decision. And, you know, but it's turned out to be really great, because I've learned about the treatment courts over there, which is a platform for my current campaign.
Yeah, they do have a very good, I'm just going off of social media, they seem to have a very good program in place in Nicholas County.
They do. And I was not a believer in treatment courts whatsoever. So when I went to Nicholas County and was told, like, you're going to do family treatment court on behalf of the prosecutor's office, and you're going to help with drug court, and I, of course, couldn't do as I was told. But I was not a believer. We've had 2 graduations, I think, since I've been there, and I can tell you that I do believe in the program.
I think it's wonderful,
Is it beneficial for everybody? No.
Right. But
is it something that could benefit Webster County? Is it something that could benefit Braxton County, Gilmer County, Clay County? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did a little research on the treatment courts, and there's 11 counties in West Virginia that do not have any type of treatment court. Our circuit is 4 of those 11 counties.
Oh, wow, really?
So, if elected, that is something that I hope to bring with me to the bench, or at least be in support of.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an alternative. I mean, we have to try at this point. The drug epidemic is outrageous. We have got to try. When I say we, I mean the 4 counties that you spoke of. We've got to try something.
And the people in them.
Absolutely.
And that's why Nicholas County's treatment court is so prosperous, is because they have a lot of community support.
Right.
And again, going back to what I was talking about at lunch, our counties have people that want to help.
Yes. Oh,
it's just, often those people don't know how to mobilize.
Yeah.
To get the help where it needs.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
It does. It does. And it opens up a bigger support system in the counties for the families going through treatment court. Because right now it's minimal to nothing, at least here. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of support systems. I mean, meetings, services, mental health services and such.
Well, and that's what the family treatment court encompasses. They try to bring in, the mental health aspect.
Yes.
They try to make sure before people graduate, they have housing.
Yeah.
They're clean for a minimum of a year.
Yeah.
They have employment.
Wonderful.
They have, a driver's license.
Yeah.
So many people lose their license at a young age and then they just never get it back.
Yeah.
And, how hard would it be to go to work every day if you can't drive there?
That's right. No, I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm very, very supportive of that. Yeah. That is great. So that is one area that you hope to develop. And again, once you're elected, nothing happens overnight. I mean, it's a process to get this in place in each county. I know here, Seneca is the mental health services here. I'm not sure about the other counties, but that'll be great to see all of that come together.
I'm very hopeful.
That's
Nicholas
wonderful.
County has been very supportive of.
And that's a great model to follow.
Yeah, if you're elected, we'll help you. That kind of thing. So.
Yeah. That's
the
great.
Pieces are there. It's just getting
someone
them to
putting
go
the puzzle
together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So let's get into the fun stuff now. We've heard a little bit about your professional life. Jasmine is married, and they do have a daughter, and that's really all I'm going to say. You tell me about how you met your husband, as much as you want to about what his profession is and such.
So. For those of you that know me, know that my husband is a state trooper. His name is Logan Mohr, spelled M-O-H-R. I feel like I'm constantly spelling mine and my daughter's last name. So, I met Logan through, actually, my mom, as we've discussed, was a defense attorney.
Yeah.
And she had a case in Braxton County. And I had just moved back from law school. So I graduated in May, and then I studied for the bar exam in Charleston, took the bar exam in the end of July, and started work in August. So I moved back in with my parents in August, and I had a boyfriend at the time. So just keep that in mind with all this. And so my mom had went to court, and I had went to court, and it was the evening, and we were both home, and she said, "Oh, I gave your number out today to somebody." And I said, "Oh, you did?"
I love it.
And she was like, "Yeah, because..." And I said, "Well, that's okay. I'm going to need friends in Braxton, whatever." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I gave your number to a state trooper." I was like, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Yeah, I had this case and he did the right thing. So, I felt like it was appropriate." And I said, "Okay." And so, in her terms, the right thing where her client that she was down there representing had been charged with a felony forgery because he had written a letter telling, actually, Judge Alsop what a terrible, giving him the what for, and signed his cellmate's name, which is where the forgery came in. And so my mom, being my mom, was like, this is a BS felony.
Yeah.
And the officer, who is now my husband, agreed with her. So that's when prompted her to, you know, essentially offer. Yes, she saw an opportunity there. And so she's like, well, I sort of said you'd go on a date with him too. I said, well, I have a boyfriend. She's like, yeah, I don't really care for him. So,
love it. And if you know her mom, I mean, this is spot on. I love it. It's hilarious.
So we ended up going on through all this, I say, what does he look like? And her response is, he's tall with short hair and wears a lot of green. So I was like, that's very descriptive. Never laid eyes on him until every state of birth that I ever met. He picked me up, blind date. We went and got coffee, which I don't even drink coffee. It was also my idea to go get coffee. And
the rest
shortly thereafter, I did not have a boyfriend. And then we got married and had Reese girl.
Yeah, I love it. So one of the questions I had for Jasmine, because of the line of work he's in and the line of work that she is in, has that been a conflict along the way?
So initially, it was not when I was the assistant prosecutor, and he was actually stationed in Braxton.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
He came out of the academy directly to Braxton. Okay. He's originally from Pennsylvania, so he, was not really familiar with West Virginia at all.
Yeah.
In fact, when he tested for the state police, he had just had a friend be like, "Do you want to go test?" And then he was testing for the Pennsylvania state police at the same time and got hired here first. So, and then just ended up in Braxton.
Well, that's a fun little story.
Yeah. And so it was not a conflict initially. And then when I got appointed prosecutor, I think it was in 2017, in March of 2017, or it may have been April, all of a sudden it was a conflict, which it had never been a conflict anywhere really in the state of West Virginia, or not been pushed to be an issue. And then all of a sudden it was. So here we are.
Had to make some adjustments.
We had to make some adjustments in that he had to be transferred.
Yeah.
Completely out of Braxton County.
Yeah.
So that, created personal conflict.
Well, sure it would.
Like, I don't know if that was your question about conflict or if it was
exactly.
conflict.
Both. You answered both. Yeah.
So, I had to always disclaim, like, hey, I'm in a relationship with this guy, and if there was an issue, then my boss would handle it.
Right.
Kelly was my boss, and so she would handle it. So then when I became the prosecutor, if there was a conflict, there was no one to handle it because the conflict flows from the top to the bottom. So he actually came here to Webster County and worked for, I think, 3 months, and then ultimately got stationed in Lewis County. And so, it was rough.
I'm sure it was.
It was rough.
I'm sure it was. I mean, there would be some tension there.
There was some tension. There was some resentment for sure.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, and now, looking back on it, I do. But, I took him completely out of his comfort zone. And it happened like that. I mean, you interview, and then I got the job like 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow. So it happened quickly.
So as soon as I got the appointment, he had to go.
Yeah.
And he didn't, have any of that planned. And, he was like, I know the roads here, and I know this here, and I don't know that in Webster, and I don't know that anywhere else. So it was an adjustment.
That's tough. As any marriage goes through tough spots, though, you've worked through it, got to the other side of it. Now he is in Lewisburg.
Correct? He's in Lewis County.
Lewis County. Yes, I'm sorry.
No,
so
you're fine.
Very, very well. Very good. Now, so do you want to share about your last name? I think that's fascinating. Or would you rather not? If not.
Okay, so on Facebook, like if you look at my personal Facebook, it says Jasmine Morton Mohr.
Okay.
So that is actually not my legal name. My legal name is still Jasmine Morton, which is what you'll see on the ballot or,
right.
campaign
So it'll be
pages.
Jasmine Morton.
And people have, why are they different?
Yeah.
So when Logan and I first got married, like I said, we were both in Braxton County. I was the assistant prosecutor. He was a trooper
State
there.
Trooper, yes.
He did a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, he truly did. And so he just said, I don't want these people to immediately associate you. Even after we got married, I don't want these people to immediately associate us.
Yeah.
And the last name, again, I spelled it for you all, is a different
it is
spelling.
Different. Yes.
So, of course, if that were my last name, people are automatic. Not that I didn't disclose. I did, but, it wasn't. I didn't
even
have to
for safety reasons,
Right, so he didn't, there's no need to change your name.
Mm-hmm.
So, 5 years go by, or 4 years go by, and then all of a sudden we're in a different position and he's no longer
Yeah.
in the county. And so I, changed it on certain documents, but I haven't went through the process of like changing it on my diplomas and all of that kind of thing to make it, I guess legal.
Yeah.
So I am still Jasmine Morton, and so that's why I'm on the ballot as Jasmine Morton.
Yeah, I just think that was interesting, and to me, that spoke of him being a protective husband, which I thought was very good. I mean, that speaks highly of him, so I think that's great. So if that was a question for anyone now, I mean, your paths really don't cross professionally, or if so, very rarely.
Right.
Okay.
They hardly ever cross. I mean, we talk about work. I mean,
yeah.
Of course,
I feel like at dinner, if it's you and your mom and Logan, I'd be like, all right, guys, let's talk about basketball.
Yeah, I mean, for real.
I'm just kidding. But now, what about if when you are elected, still paths wouldn't cross? It wouldn't be a conflict?
No, he should not. I mean, unless, there's some kind of pursuit into Braxton County or, something catastrophic would happen.
Right,
and he would respond. I mean, then which I hope not.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. True. Yeah. Great. Well, that's exciting. So now you're married, state trooper. I love how you guys met. I mean, the whole Joyce was on it. That's great.
She was on it.
That is so fun. So let's talk just a minute about motherhood. How does your career impact motherhood for you? Is it demanding? Are you juggling a lot? What's going on there?
It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. It is.
I would be lying if I said it wasn't
hard.
No,
you're right. Yeah.
Of course, my baby, I think is the best.
Yes.
As I'm sure every parent does.
Yeah.
But, she's a trooper as far as going to anything or being with me. I mean, she wants to be right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Which I have been told that growing up I was the same way.
See?
So,
someday we'll be voting for Reese.
Yeah. Well, and she'll even say, hey, Mommy, I think I heard someone say they're going to vote for Reese.
Oh,
like when we're out and
precious.
about, and I'm like, I'm sure they did.
Oh.
But so when I first had her, I had her on June 1st, and I was in court June 21st, I think it was, doing a full day of court. Like,
wow, yeah.
I didn't take near the amount of time.
Jeez, yeah,
you didn't. That I should have.
Wow.
Now, I wasn't back full time, but,
right.
I was so invested in work. Like, this is ridiculous, and I can't even believe I'm telling people this, but, like, I even took orders to, like, the delivery room. Like, in my hospital room, there were orders that I was, like, reading through and correcting.
Yeah.
And my staff was like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is wrong with you?
That just shows your dedication.
So,
that speaks
well, it wasn't just that. There were, I just felt that I needed to show that I could do it all.
Yeah.
I can be a mom, but I can still,
right.
be this boss of a prosecutor kind of thing. And like I said, it's hard. And looking back
hard.
Now, I wish I would have taken more time.
Yeah.
And that is another, we'll say, perk that Nicholas County has given me, is it does give me a little more time with her. And
sure.
Of course, she'll start school in the fall, so, I'm glad to have that. And she's my only baby at this point in time. Perhaps that'll change, but right now that's what God has given me, and that's what we're gonna be happy about.
Yeah.
So, I would be lying if I sat here and said, oh, it's been a breeze and everything's great and it's perfect. It's not.
Yeah, any mom would see right through that. Be like, no.
And arranging childcare, every week, and making sure
and they get sick sometimes, and
what do you do when you have a full day of court and you have a baby that's thrown up?
Right.
You hope you have a really good Aunt Jenny like I have. What you hope for.
And older moms like myself, I shared with Jasmine a little bit. It's a very just tough puzzle to try to keep together and not lose pieces. But I do believe that balance is a lie. There are just seasons, like right now during your campaign season, things are a little off balance, but it's a season. It will pass,
Right.
So indeed, I'm a big family first person. I know that family is extremely important to you as well.
It is.
And that is something that's important to me when I think about who I am voting for. What is your perspective on family? How important is it to you? I mean, that's a big deal for me, and I'm sure other voters as well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And it should be. I mean, that's
absolutely
because, these cases that, I work now.
Yeah.
They don't just affect that single person that's in the, you know, in the defendant's chair, or that single adult respondent. It affects the entire family.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, a lot of people don't even take that into consideration.
Yeah.
You know, you have to look at, it's not just that single person.
Mm-hmm.
That single person has parents. They might have children. They, you know, have siblings.
Right.
They're all going through it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different way that they're going through it. So.
Right. So what would you want people to know about you that they may not know at this point?
Oh, Lord, I just spilled everything out.
Well, I think we can definitely talk about, you know, when I talked to Jasmine, I actually talked to Jasmine way before I even knew that she was running for this position, because I really wanted, when I look at her, I see this young lady who I really think is a great example for other young ladies. Also, I mean, not just from small counties, though I focus on that a lot because I want to take the limits off of people and say you can do it. But from anywhere, you are a strong young lady that's a wife, married to a husband with a stressful job as well as your stressful job. You're a mom, you're a daughter, you're a sister, you know, you're a coworker, you're a friend. You wear a lot of different hats. It can be done, and it can be done well. And I think that you have done so very well. Yes, it's busy during this campaign. Yes, it is. But I love how you bring her along. You know, you can see, as we talked about her page that she has on social media, you can see how involved your daughter is with all of this. I love it. I mean, she's right there petting animals and different things, and you know, she's very involved. So I think that speaks real highly of your character.
Yeah, we were actually out campaigning last week here in Webster, and next thing I know, she's like laying down in someone's yard with their dogs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. They're like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
Does she want to pick my flowers?
Oh. That is great.
But yeah, and that it helps that she wants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now if I'm elected and have to run it again in 8 years, she'll be 12.
So it will probably be a little different story.
I don't know that she'll be one to lay in the yard with people's pets, but
yeah,
hopefully she'll still be there with me.
That's so much fun. That is so much fun. Well, we're getting ready to wind down. I don't want to keep her too long. She's had a full day of work and then came here. Her little girl's waiting to be picked up and spend the afternoon, or the evening, with her mama. But is there anything we didn't talk about that you want to, or that you want to share?
I don't think so. I just hope that if this podcast reaches somebody that has questions, or, you know, it doesn't even have to be about law. Like, it could be about college. It could, you know, it could be about really anything, you know, that they would feel comfortable enough to reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to talk to.
Yeah,
usually.
Agree. And I do want to, we did, you know, from the very beginning, from my YouTube channel and this, if you've listened to me, you know, I'm like, oh, I don't get into politics. I don't voice a lot of political beliefs. But again, I did touch base with Jazz before I even knew. And I am so confident in what she brings. I didn't hesitate to continue to have her on as a guest. She didn't seek me out. I sought her out. There is no reward or compensation or anything of that nature. She came and I came, and we're just both on our free time right now because she wanted to share this with you, again, to set an example for young girls, but also to get her voice out there and let the 4 counties be aware of what she feels like she can bring to this position. So
yes,
is that okay?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
And I appreciate you taking time to
I
let
love
me
it.
voice some of that.
Yeah, I've shared this with her too. It's neat for me to get to sit here with her. I see her. For those of you listening that have never seen Jasmine, she has long blonde hair. She's always had long blonde hair. I can see her as a little girl, 4 or 5, I don't know, spunky little girl running back through. They had a long hallway in their house, and she would run just as fast as can be up and down that hallway. And I love seeing the young lady that you are today. I mean, I do. I'm not just saying that. I really do love to see that. All right, last 2 questions. But again, if you have additional questions for Jasmine, you can reach out to her, find her Facebook page, vote for Jasmine Morton, Circuit Judge. And if you can't get to her, you can contact me and I can get you in touch with her. What do you know about yourself now that you didn't know, say, a year ago or 5 years ago?
Oh gosh, that's kind of a tough question. A lot. There's a lot I didn't know about myself 5 years ago that I know now. And of course, 5 years ago, I wasn't a mother yet, but I was always hopeful.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was always hopeful. So that's, you know, of course, been the biggest change in my life in 5
Sure.
years. And I'd prayed for a baby for a long time. So the fact that I have Reese is, you say that I put her first, but that's part of the reason why, is because we struggled with that for a while. So, you know, that's, and if I could just look back on who I was 5 years ago, you know, like I said, I was hyper focused on work and, you know, just trying to be the man, trying to be, you know, and I was doing that, and but in the process of doing that, I was so hard on myself, and I just wish I would have maybe not been so hard on myself and not put so much pressure on myself. So that's probably the one thing is that I've learned, that, you know, things are going to happen, and you're just going to have to go with it. You're just, you know, and you can't be so hard on yourself. You can't, I mean, everyone is their own worst critic. I get that. But, you know, probably 5 years ago, it was to an extreme. Yeah. And, you know, now I can sit back and see that.
Yeah, that's good though. That's good growth in that area. I mean, that is definitely, and it shifts probably how you change your daughter, or excuse me, it changes how you parent your daughter. You don't want her to have that. I don't want her to heaviness
to feel
and be
that,
so hard on herself.
You have to be everything to everyone all the time, because you don't.
Yeah, right. Good for you. Good job, Jazz. So the last one, this is it. We'll wrap it up. What do you now know about God that you didn't in the past?
Okay, so I was not raised in church, as you probably know. And actually, my mom has recently told me that that's the one regret that she has as a parent, is that she didn't bring us all up in church. Yeah. And so, I want to say it was shortly before Reese was born. My secretary and her husband, Mary Beth Smith and Andrew Smith, invited us to start coming to their church, Gasaway Methodist. And my husband grew up at church. I mean, he was a youth leader. I mean, active in all of that kind of stuff. He was very just brought up very religious, and of course, you know, I was not. So, and he had kind of shied away from it. He'll tell you that himself. Sure, you know,
as I think all of us do that were brought up in that. Yes,
yeah,
you know, find our own way at one point in return.
So, you know, I was like, let's try going, and you know, we weren't there every Sunday, but we were, you know, doing better. And then as Reese, you know, after she was born, the church still completely welcomed us in. Yeah, like it wasn't an issue, you know. And I've heard some others say, you know, we can't go to church; they're too small, and we just never experienced that at the church we go to, and so the difference from what I knew about God 5 years ago and what I know about God now is substantial in my life. Yeah, and so in a positive way. I mean, it's impacted me. Yeah, and I think that's part of the growth that I'm talking about. Is,
yes, ma'am. Yes, it is.
All kind of ties together.
It sure does. That's great. You're right. Amen to that. I agree. So, listen, thank you so much for coming. I have enjoyed it so much.
Thank you for having me.
I have enjoyed it so much. And I really look forward to continuing to follow you on your journey, whatever that might be.
That's right.
Look her up on Facebook again, and on the ballot it is Jasmine Morton.
It is.
And any questions you have, she's open to it. But thank you, listeners and viewers, for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it. So
thanks, guys.